There is something quietly terrifying about a man who is not available. Not emotionally, not mentally, not even energetically. He is present, yet untouchable. And that, right there, is what draws women in like a gravitational pull they can't resist. Women don't just crave affection. They crave meaning. They crave to matter to someone whose world doesn't revolve around them. A man who gives his energy sparingly, like a king who decides which parts of his kingdom deserve his attention. That man holds an aura of power that few can understand. You see, in today's world, men are encouraged to be endlessly accessible, to text back fast, to explain themselves, to be emotionally transparent. But here's the truth that no one dares to say. The more accessible a man becomes, the less valuable he feels to the feminine psyche. Scarcity is not about being arrogant. It is about being uncommon. It is the art of creating distance that amplifies desire, not just physical, but psychological and spiritual. When a man stops chasing validation, stops trying to prove his worth, he becomes the one thing modern women rarely encounter: mystery. And mystery is magnetic because it forces the female mind to imagine, to interpret, to chase meaning where there is none clearly given. That's how obsession is born, not from constant presence, but from controlled absence. This is the paradox of attraction. The woman who claims she wants attention is often drawn more deeply to the man who withholds it. Not cruelly, but with purpose. The man who knows that his silence speaks louder than compliments, his boundaries louder than confessions. In this video, we are going to uncover the psychological, evolutionary, and emotional layers behind this power. Why a man's scarcity, his ability to withdraw his energy, attention, and time, creates an invisible force that women simultaneously desire and fear. We'll break down what truly happens when a man becomes rare, how it triggers a woman's deepest instincts, and why this dynamic has shaped human attraction for centuries. Part 1. The evolutionary root of male scarcity. To understand the power of a man's scarcity, we must travel back, far before modern dating, social media, or text messages. We must go back to the primal code that still governs the psychology of attraction. In evolutionary terms, scarcity signals value. In nature, the rarest resource always commands the most energy and attention. The same law applies to human relationships. When a man is scarce, emotionally, energetically, or even socially, he triggers a deep instinct in the female psyche that says, if he's rare, he must be valuable. In ancestral environments, women sought men not only for survival, but for status, protection, and genetic strength. A man who wasn't easily available signaled that his resources, physical, emotional, or spiritual, were already in high demand, that he had a mission, a purpose, and other priorities beyond pleasing her. That subtle scarcity wasn't rejection, it was proof of value. A man with no mission, no boundaries, no control over his attention, was simply a man with no direction. But the one who was selective, who was difficult to reach, became the center of her focus. Even now, thousands of years later, that same instinct operates beneath the surface. A man who overexplains, overtexts, or constantly seeks approval unknowingly signals that he has nothing else more important. But a man who moves with quiet confidence, whose presence is felt even when he's not there, communicates something powerful without words, that his energy is sacred, and not everyone gets access to it. This is what makes scarcity dangerous, because when a woman senses it, she begins to project meaning onto that man. She starts asking herself questions. Why isn't he trying harder? Why doesn't he need me? Who has his attention? And that internal questioning breeds emotional investment. The man of scarcity doesn't demand attention, he provokes it. He doesn't speak louder, he speaks less, and his silence creates more echo. He doesn't give everything, he gives selectively. And that selectiveness makes each gesture 10 times more powerful. Part 2. The psychological effect of scarcity on female desire. Scarcity doesn't just affect attraction, it rewires the way a woman thinks and feels, because desire, at its core, thrives in uncertainty. And a man who is scarce is a man who introduces uncertainty into her emotional world. When a woman feels that she cannot easily access a man's attention, her mind starts to interpret that distance as meaning. Her imagination begins to fill in the blanks. Why isn't he responding? What is he doing? What kind of life is he living that doesn't revolve around me? And that imagination builds emotional attachment faster than any words could. The female psyche has always been drawn to mystery, not because women love confusion, but because mystery activates emotion. It awakens curiosity, and curiosity transforms into longing. A man's scarcity, then, is not about absence. It's about controlled presence. He gives just enough to be remembered, yet withholds enough to remain a question mark. Psychologically, scarcity taps into the mechanism of intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. When a woman receives attention inconsistently, when she never knows exactly when he will reach out, when he will show affection, or when he will disappear again, her dopamine system activates unpredictably. And unpredictability keeps her hooked. But this isn't about manipulation, because the man of true scarcity isn't playing a game. He's simply living in alignment with his priorities. He doesn't disappear to cause pain. He disappears because his energy is focused elsewhere, on purpose, on growth, on mastery. And that's where the paradox deepens. The more he invests in himself, the more she invests emotionally in him. His scarcity mirrors her desire to be chosen. And when he finally chooses her, even momentarily, it feels divine. Because the rarest thing in life is not affection, it's selective affection. Scarcity amplifies meaning. Every message, every glance, every touch becomes loaded with significance. The man of abundance is predictable. The man of scarcity, unpredictable. And unpredictability keeps feminine energy alive. Part 3. The masculine energy that creates scarcity. True scarcity does not begin with tactics. It begins with energy. A man's scarcity is not what he does. It's what he embodies. It's the calm, grounded energy that comes from being rooted in his mission, his silence and his self-control. When a man's energy becomes centered, he stops reacting to everything around him. He no longer tries to prove his worth through attention, approval, or attraction. He becomes a man who moves at his own pace, speaks only when necessary, and allows the world and women to orbit around his gravity. This is masculine polarity in its purest form. Stillness that moves the feminine without trying. Presence that commands without demanding. Scarcity is not about pretending to be busy or cold. It's about having inner abundance, so much self-respect, purpose and emotional sovereignty that you no longer leak energy into things that don't deserve it. Women feel this before they understand it. They sense when a man is emotionally centered, when his attention cannot be easily hijacked by beauty, validation, or emotional drama. That kind of man becomes a mirror to her own emotional chaos. And because the feminine is naturally drawn to emotional depth, she's magnetized to the man who doesn't get lost in her waves, but stands firm, like a lighthouse amidst her storm. In that steadiness lies danger, because it awakens in her both admiration and frustration, and the two emotional ingredients that generate obsession. She admires his control, but she also wants to test it. She wants to feel if she can pull him out of his composure, if she can make him break his silence, if she can be the one who penetrates his calm. Every time he holds his ground, her fascination grows. Every time he refuses to overshare, she wonders what he's thinking. Every time he leaves her with a question unanswered, she invests more mental energy trying to solve him. Part 4. How women test a man's scarcity. The moment a woman senses scarcity in a man, something primal awakens in her psychology, the need to test it. Not because she wants to destroy it, but because she wants to verify it. She needs to know if his calmness is real or just an illusion, if his silence is strength or fear. These tests often come disguised as emotional fluctuations, small moments that challenge your composure. A sarcastic remark, a sudden withdrawal, an unexpected emotional outburst. Each of these moments is her subconscious saying, "Let me see if your energy is truly unshakable." If you react, if you try to explain, argue, or overcompensate, she feels your scarcity vanish. Because true scarcity is measured not in how little you give, but in how little you need to defend. When you are truly centered, you understand that every emotional test is not a threat. It's an invitation to demonstrate your strength. Women test the man they respect. They do not test the man they pity. When she feels your distance, she wants to know whether it's born from confidence or fear. So she'll push you, emotionally, verbally, sometimes even physically, just to feel the edges of your boundaries. If she feels you breaking easily, she loses respect. If she feels you holding firm, she becomes drawn in deeper. That's the paradox of feminine testing. It's not meant to break you, but to prove you real. Because in her subconscious world, stability equals safety, and scarcity, when stable, equals desire. So when she challenges your calm, don't interpret it as rejection. It's curiosity, her way of asking, are you truly the man you appear to be? And the man of scarcity doesn't flinch. He doesn't fight or retreat. He simply remains. Part 5. The emotional alchemy of scarcity. At its highest level, scarcity becomes emotional alchemy, the transformation of distance into devotion. It's not about controlling women. It's about controlling yourself so profoundly that your absence carries more energy than another man's presence. When a man lives with emotional discipline, he begins to emit a specific frequency, the one of stability, self-respect, and mystery. That frequency doesn't beg to be noticed. It commands attention effortlessly. Every great archetype of masculine power throughout history shared this trait. They were selective. They were calm. They were emotionally contained. Kings, philosophers, warriors, they all embodied scarcity because their lives had purpose. Purpose is the ultimate source of masculine scarcity. When your mind is consumed by something greater than desire, your energy becomes sacred. And women, consciously or not, feel this difference. Because most men are emotionally chaotic. They leak their attention everywhere. They pursue endlessly, they crave being wanted. But the man who doesn't chase, who is focused on his path, exudes a kind of quiet gravity that makes women want to earn his attention. Scarcity transforms her emotional chemistry. It moves her from entitlement to investment, from expecting your attention to working for it, from being the one desired to being the one desiring. That shift is what binds her emotionally, because desire is not sustained by comfort, it's sustained by uncertainty. And the man of scarcity gives her just enough warmth to hope, but just enough distance to dream. His words are rare and therefore remembered. His presence is brief but deeply felt. His silence becomes a language, one that says, you cannot possess me. You can only meet me where I already am. Part 6. When scarcity turns into emotional mastery. Scarcity is only the first stage. If a man stays there too long, it becomes emptiness, a performance that hides insecurity instead of revealing strength. But when he learns to hold scarcity as discipline rather than distance, it transforms into emotional mastery. Emotional mastery is the art of responding instead of reacting. It's what happens when a man's internal state no longer depends on the behavior of anyone outside him. He is unshaken when loved, unshaken when ignored. His self-worth does not inflate with compliments or collapse with criticism. He is constant, like the heartbeat of the earth, always there but never loud. The man of emotional mastery doesn't use scarcity, he is scarcity, because his time, focus, and attention have already been claimed by higher callings, creation, discipline, purpose, transcendence. His attention is expensive because it's valuable even to himself. When a woman encounters such a man, she feels something paradoxical, safety and tension at once. Safety, because his stability grounds her emotions. Tension, because his mystery keeps her awake. She begins to realize that she can't manipulate his mood or control his decisions. And that realization births admiration. Most men are emotionally predictable. They give when praised and withdraw when criticized. But the master of scarcity remains equanimous. His emotions obey him, not the situation. And women feel this deeply, even when they can't name it. This kind of man communicates through rhythm, not words. He knows when to be silent, when to speak, when to retreat, when to appear. His presence becomes a form of leadership. It tells the feminine, you can trust me because I do not dissolve under pressure. Part 7. Living as the rare man in a world of abundance. The modern world worships exposure. Everything is shared, posted, and publicized. Attention has become cheap and mystery nearly extinct. To live as a man of scarcity today is therefore an act of rebellion, a spiritual resistance against the culture of over-availability. In a world where everyone screams for validation, silence becomes power. Where everyone chases, patience becomes prestige. Where everyone explains, simplicity becomes depth. The rare man does not hide. He curates. He chooses what to reveal and when to reveal it. He builds a life so full of substance that even his silence feels meaningful. His social media presence, his words, his energy, all become minimal yet potent. He is not addicted to being seen. He is devoted to seeing clearly. While others compete for attention, he invests in understanding. While others demand love, he cultivates peace. And that inner stillness radiates outward as unshakable magnetism. Such a man cannot be replaced because he cannot be replicated. His value doesn't come from trend or appearance, but from essence, the cultivated depth of a soul that knows its worth. For women, encountering this kind of man is disorienting. He doesn't chase, yet he cares. He doesn't flatter, yet he listens. He doesn't promise, yet his word feels sacred. And that combination, warmth without need, strength without aggression, pulls her in deeper than any loud seduction ever could. To live as the rare man is to master contrast. You are light and shadow, presence and absence, logic and feeling. You give the world a glimpse of what balanced masculinity looks like, and a force that protects without control, loves without dependency, and leads without domination. The silent crown, the dangerous power of a man's scarcity is not that it makes him unreachable, it's that it makes him unforgettable. His silence echoes longer than another man's words. His distance feels closer than another man's presence. Because scarcity, when authentic, is a reflection of discipline. And discipline is the highest form of love. Every woman senses the truth. A man who guards his energy is a man who values it. And a man who values himself teaches everyone around him how to value him too. That is why the rare man never needs to announce his worth. The world adjusts to it naturally. In relationships, this energy rewrites the dynamic. He doesn't compete for attention. He defines what attention means. He doesn't chase affection. He invites it through respect. He doesn't seek validation. He creates peace. Scarcity, at its purest, is not about withholding. It's about prioritizing. It's the discipline to choose purpose over distraction, depth over drama, silence over noise. And in that discipline lies an aura that neither time nor trend can destroy. So if you wish to embody dangerous power, do not pretend to be scarce. Become scarce through growth. Build a life that is full enough to make absence meaningful. Master your emotions so completely that no one can weaponize them against you. Let your presence be a gift, your attention a reward, and your silence a mirror. Because when a man becomes rare, he no longer begs to be loved. He chooses to be understood. And in that choice lies the timeless magnetism that has drawn women toward mystery. Since the beginning of history, that is the dangerous power of a man's scarcity. Not control, not manipulation, but mastery of self, of energy, of love.